We welcome you to Video Games Live on Monday, October 9th, 2023. This is a show dedicated to everything video games and not bias like some of the people I see on YouTube. This is about talking about video games while at the same time looking back on history with retro and looking forward to the future. We will also be doing live research. So this is all spur of the moment, but we still want to have fun for video games. I am your host, Joshua Hogan. On today's episode, we'll be talking about a Blockbuster October is our first topic. Then we'll be celebrating Amy Rose's 30th anniversary, a potential actor strike against the video game industry, the rise of TV and film adaptations, and retro in GameStop. But first, I know it's it's 10 o'clock for those of y'all watching. It's 11 o'clock Eastern on the East Coast, 10 o'clock Central on the West Coast, here in where I live. So first off, let's start with Blockbuster October. And as you can see, it's by Mr. Sonic over here. I am excited. For the first time in what I feel like I grew up playing video games. My parents played video games growing up. They have almost every single console on this way. But the list is very interesting. It is very an interesting one because as I Google it right now, there's a lot of games coming out in October. Like I said, I prepare all this on the fly. And this is one thing. I read this list. This is according to sources around the web, but we're gonna go to Game Rant, which is some website I read a lot. And of course, this is according to Game Rant. In October, we had some good releases this summer. Final Fantasy 16, Starfield came out last month, but when you look at the list of games, now I don't know some of these games I don't know much about. Does that mean that I would play them? Maybe, maybe not. That's not the way I played video games. But here are some of the games, and if you're fans of these games, I have a lot of respect for y'all. You got Total Warfare PC has no date. This was as of September, so some of this may be out of date. Then you got I'm gonna butcher this, but Aegis 7 for the PC, Switch, PS4, and 5. That came out last week, October 3rd, Monday, October 3rd, or Tuesday, October 3rd. Warhammer 4000 Darkside. That was an October release exclusive to the Xbox Series X. Wargroove 2. Now, some of these I did research, and a lot of these are RPGs and stuff like that. Wargroove 2, which is a reboot that Nintendo did of the original franchise, released on Thursday. Assassin's Creed Mirage. Now, I have actually seen people play Assassin's Creed. Even my stepfather has. And in fact, this is one of the few games on here that's a multiple console release. It released Thursday on the PC, PS4, PS5, both Xbox consoles, and then you have Detective Pikachu Returns on the Switch. I don't know if I guess they're just trying to throw back to I guess it's like a spin-off of the movie that came out a couple years back. And now going into this week, and there are some games that I question why they're releasing these. Now, the biggest takeaway I can take from this, Roblox is coming to PlayStation. From what I read today, it said PS4, PS5. This one says PS5, PS5. I'm assuming it's PlayStation all around. That comes out tomorrow, Tuesday the 10th, on the PlayStation console. Wildcard Football. This is a multi-console release. That's an October 10th, PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch. I'm assuming that's multiple consoles. Assassin's Creed, or I already read that one. Like I said, Forza Motorsport. This is an Xbox release. I'm assuming it's new and old gen. This is releasing tomorrow as well. Now, I'm assuming it's a new, as you can see from my Sharpie in my or Expo marker in my hand. To me, that sounds like it's a multi-generational release, but of course, Forza is one of the biggest selling points towards Xbox. It is the only Xbox original in my eyes that is still being made on the new gen. And it's kind of sad because I grew up with Fable and Halo, but still, nevertheless, I've seen the gameplay on that so far, and it looks good. So, Honkai Star Rail, that's a PS5 release. Don't know much about that, but that releases Wednesday. And then you got Lords of the Fallen. That's coming out. That's a new gen release, mainly PS5, PC, and the Xbox Series X. That is coming 13th, Friday night. Now, the game I'm really excited for, one of the few games on this list that I'm actually excited for. It comes out the same week as Super Mario Wonder, and this is just my excitement for it. It is Sonic Superstars. It's coming out on the PC, PS4, and the PS5. I've already pre-ordered it for the PS5. It's coming out on Switch and both Xbox consoles. It comes out next, which we will have a special episode dedicated to all the Sonic characters. I was going to say Spyro for a second. That's another franchise I love a lot. I've seen the gameplay on this. I'm glad they switched it up. It's more of a 3D, 2D scroller that we've seen from the Mario franchise since the Wii. And I'm excited. I think this is one of the few games like Forza Motorsport and Assassin's Creed Mirage that, in my opinion, is going to make this month worth it. Endless Wizard with a Gun. Honestly, that sounds like something that would come out of the minds of Rick and Morty. But it comes out this is mainly a new gen release, coming out on PC, the Xbox Series X and S, PS5, and the Switch. That comes out the same day. Honestly, more people are going to be focused on Superstars, just about how hyped up it got, and I'm excited. Endless Dungeon, I don't know what, I'm assuming it's going to be one of those it's going to be like Dungeons and Dragons type game that comes out for the PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, and the Switch on October 19th, which is Thursday. Then you're remastering, there's a game called Gargoyles Remastered. I'm assuming it's remastering a classic version of the game. It's coming out for PC. Now, here's the kicker on this one. It's not on the new gens except for the Switch. But then again, the Switch is the only console. PS4, Switch, Xbox One, and PC. That comes out the 19th. The 20th is the most interesting date of next week, which is next Friday. You got Marvel Spider-Man 2, exclusive to the PS5. I've heard many great things about the first one, about Miles Morales. I've seen the gameplay on those first two games. Those were really good games. I hope this one lives up to that hype. That's next Friday. Alongside another console exclusive, but for the Switch on the same week, Super Mario Brothers Wonder. Again, I've seen the gameplay for this game. I mean, I'm not going to show the clips because those are copyrighted. But those games, those two games right there, alongside Sonic Superstars, is going to make next week a lovable week for Sonic fans, Spider-Man fans, and Super Mario fans. And then October 24th is Lord of the Rings Return to Morta. It's Lord of the Rings. This one's going to sell. No matter what, it's going to sell. City Skylines 2. I feel this is a sequel generated towards the new gen consoles, excluding, this is not going to be on the Switch, however. I hate to burst your bubble. It's going to be on PC, PS5, Xbox Series X. That is 2 Tuesdays from now on October 24th. The day before that, Just Dance 2024 comes out now. Just Dance is more of a kid's game, but I have respect for it. this is coming, but but it's a tradition. This is, I mean, Just Dance is a Just Dance. I don't know how you play this game without a move camera or a Kinect system, but that comes out the 23rd. That comes out on a Monday. Then they're re-releasing they're coming out with a Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1. If you've ever Metal Gear Solid, I've heard some really great things about that franchise. That comes out on 2 Tuesdays from now on the 24th. Ghost Runner 2. This is mainly a new gen release, excluding Switch. This is on PC, PS5, Xbox Series X. That comes out 2 Thursdays from now on the 26th. Miko's Night Market. I've kind of seen some clips on this one. This is mainly going to be a PS4, PS5, Xbox One release. No word yet if this is going to be Xbox Series X release. That comes out on the 26th as well. Dave the Diver. This sounds like one of those kid games. That comes out the 26th. Alan Wake 2, the much awaited sequel to the first Alan Wake game. That's coming out. That's going to be mainly a new gen release on PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X. USC 5, mainly PS5 and Xbox Series X. That's on the 27th. And it's alongside Alan Wake 2. Honestly, this month is a jam-packed month. And coming off of a summer where we had some good releases and some okay releases, this is going to be a fun month because next month, other than Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 and Hogwarts Legacy coming out on the Switch and a Super Mario RPG coming out for the Switch, there's not much we're looking forward. There's not much that's coming out next month that is a big deal. But Call of Duty, that's always a big deal. But Persona 5's coming out. That's going to be a good release too. And then you got not a lot of games that are coming out. There's not a lot of games coming out in December either. So this month is one of those big months, especially with us getting ready for the 2023 holiday season. Holiday shopping's right around the corner. We're almost to Halloween. Today is Indigenous Peoples Day or Columbus Day, whichever you celebrate. So this is one of the big. This month has more heavy hitters than next month. There are a couple heavy hitters, but there's a lot more this month. And this month is going to be a big month. Sonic fans are excited for Sonic Superstars. Mario fans are excited for Super Mario. I think Assassin's Creed fans, if y'all are watching, y'all got some good games coming out too. This is a Blockbuster October. And while November and December, there's some good exceptions to some games, there's not a lot coming out as I check off my bulletin board. As you can see, I'm excited because I'm a Sonic fan. I am autistic, but this is why Sonic I'm excited for. And that's mainly because it's going back to what the old school games were like. It's restyled. Sonic Wonder looks good because they're adding in new elements, and Daisy's a playable character. And Assassin's Creed, it sells itself. So Spider-Man is another one that sells itself. So there's some really good games this month. Moving on from Blockbuster October, we're going to try to make this as quick as possible. We're getting ready to sell. This year marks 30 years of Amy Rose as a playable character in Sonic. This is part of all this week. We're going to be previewing certain characters and all that. As a prelude to next Monday's episode, we will also have an episode on Friday celebrating Amy Rose. Amy Rose was first introduced in Sonic CD in 1993 for the Sega CD. She was first playable in 1998 Sonic, or in a mainline Sonic game, excluding games like Sonic the Fighters and Sonic Drift, where she was playable. She wasn't playable into a mainline Sonic game until 1998 with Sonic Adventure. But she is one of the core four. She's one of the original origin characters, if you've ever played Sonic Origins or Sonic Origins Plus. But, and of course, this year, SEGA went all out on celebrating their original characters. I mean, they're celebrating Amy Rose as for the first time ever was playable in the original 4 games. If you've played Sonic Origins Plus, I've played Sonic Origins Plus. I love it. And it's one of the best Sonic games ever because you get to play the original 4 on the new gen consoles, something that hasn't happened since the PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3 eras. Not to mention, she's changed a lot over the years. If you've compared her, if you think about her original appearance, she was saved by Sonic. It ended up getting predicted by her tarot cards that Sonic would be her knight in shining armor. She originally wore green. She originally looked like Sonic, just was pink, but had a shirt and a dress, and her iconic Pico hammer. Over the years, her look has changed a lot. Her modern look, which saw her quills get trimmed, and of course, her green eyes, and her red dress. And that's basically excluding Sonic Boom, which I've watched the series. Sonic Boom has her more in a more modern attire, a little bit older attire. But nevertheless, Amy Rose has not really changed. She's madly in love with Sonic, but over the years, it really, in my opinion, it really started with Sonic Unleashed. She stopped chasing Sonic as much, and I feel like her being playable in a mainline Sonic game, which was Frontiers last month I've seen the videos of that, it was really good. And I loved it. I've loved the videos I've seen of it from gamers that have already played as Amy, as Knuckles, as Tails. Amy, and of course Sonic Team and SEGA have gone all out on celebrating Amy this year. Of course, her role in the Shadowverse with Sonic Prime. I've seen clips of it. Shows her different sides to her character, and then you look at her future. They're supposed to be coming out this month with special tarot cards to honor Amy Rose, which honestly, as a Sonic fan, is really, really cool. And while it may not sound like, well, Amy's playable again, but that doesn't mean she's going to be playable in the future. She's going to be playable in Superstars that as mentioned. And I'm excited. I'm extremely excited. And you can't hold back an excitement that many fans have wanted for years. Is Knuckles and Tails and Amy playable in a Sonic game? And Amy being playable in a Sonic game right about the time that they're celebrating her 30th anniversary is just amazing. And I mean, she's done everything from chase down Sonic to having her own team in Sonic Heroes. As you can see, this is on the PlayStation 2. To saving, and her character description has changed a lot over the years. If you've read the recent one where she doesn't chase Sonic as much. In Sonic Heroes, she is the leader. In Sonic Heroes, her description is an overly cheerful and slightly erratic girl that poor Sonic just can't seem to shake off. Amy uses her natural initiative and positive attitude to pull the team together, and her weapon of choice, the Pico hammer, helps her to maintain authority. Despite her clearly defined goal to one day marry Sonic, he treats her as a little more than an annoyance. In his heart, he probably doesn't dislike her that much. That was in Sonic Heroes in 2003. Now, fast forward to Sonic 06, which people say is one of the worst Sonic games ever, in my opinion. It ain't. It's just a misunderstood game, but that's for another time. Her description is, and it's a brief description, an energetic girl that adores Sonic and plans to marry him someday. And then you look at Frontiers, where she is she's a damsel in distress. But you're starting to see Sonic like her in the way that if you pay attention to the tokens, her tokens are a heart. Of course, that's supposed to mean Amy because of Amy's love for Sonic, but that may actually mean Sonic kind of sees her that way, and it's been hinted at as far back as her 25th anniversary. Sega accidentally admitted that, from what I researched, that she is his girlfriend. There are times where he does show affection. It was in Sonic X, in the TV series, explicitly both Sonic X and Sonic X when it came from 2003 to 2006. But Amy Rose, them celebrating Amy Rose this year just makes sense. I mean, she is one of the characters that is stuck through in the Sonic franchise through and through. She doesn't chase Sonic down as much anymore, and that's a sad thing. But but she still cares about every living being, and that's what makes her a lovable character. She is a strong-willed character, and from her character development in every Sonic game, especially during the Colors era, in Colors, in Forces, she's more of a leader, and that's what she wants to be. But she also still understands Sonic doesn't love her, does like her as a friend, but she also knows but she's also a lot different. She cares about animals. She can defend herself easily, and she's just as fast as some of the Sonic characters. But and with the fact is that this year she is playable for the first time since Sonic 06. It's a great deal to have some fun with her. And don't worry, Amy Rose with Sonic Prime, she's still gonna be fun to watch that character. And then who knows, maybe she'll be in Sonic 3 next year. We shall see. Especially since it's going to be based off of SA2 and Shadow the Hedgehog, from what I read. Moving on to a potential video game strike, or an actor strike with the video game industry. I'm going to research it real quick. This is according to PBS. The Hollywood actors are going to strike against the video game industry. This was on September 26th. This happened. They vote to strike against the video game makers in a labor dispute, and 98% of its voters voted for it. They actually last time they striked in the video game industry was 2016. Of course, there's an ongoing actor strike with the movie industry in Hollywood. So here is an interesting thing about this. Some of the same issues are wages, safety measures, and artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence has always been in the video game industry, if you think about it, in PC. But none of the overseas developers like Ubisoft or Sega or Nintendo are affected by this. It is companies involved are Activision, which does games like Call of Duty and Spyro and Crash Bandicoot. Electronic Arts, of course, Electronic Arts is most known for the Madden franchise and The Sims. Epic Games, Take-Two Productions, which is everybody knows it as for the Borderlands franchise, as well as NBA 2K, as well as Disney and Warner Brothers. Now, this strike authorization, it does not mean that a strike will actually happen, but if it does, it would happen in November. This comes the same week as the Writers Union. Congrats on the Writers Union for getting back to work on getting that deal. And of course, they're still trying to work out. And I think that we will see a strike in the video game industry, but will it be at the same time as the current actors strike as the video game industry? That's the biggest question. And honestly, I don't think so. I think we're going to reach a deal with the studios before the video game industry, because last time they struck was in 2016. The year is 2023, so this is it feels like this is a more common occurrence, but it's not affecting It's not affecting developers like Ubisoft or Sega or Nintendo, which I don't think they use or don't have a union. I guess they don't use the Screen Actors Guild. So if you're a Nintendo fan or a Sega fan, honestly, you're in good shape. And honestly, if there is a strike that does happen, it won't happen till November. But it'll be if the actor strike is still going on in November, then it's probably going to be a while before we get new video games from those developers. So, but honestly, I don't think there's going to be a true strike in the video game industry yet. It wouldn't be until November when the contract is up, and even then, it's only against the It seems like American developers. It's not going to affect the overseas developers at all. Honestly, the strike won't affect. So it won't affect. It doesn't also look. It also doesn't look like it's going to affect developers like Rockstar any, which have made GTA 5. It's not going to affect Bethesda any. They're not listed anywhere on there. It's not affecting Sega. It's not affecting Nintendo. It's not affecting Ubisoft. So in my Volition, Deep Silver, some of those developers, honestly, it's only against. So honestly, it's not going to affect the entire video game industry. It's only hitting a select few. So if you're a fan of Sonic, if you're a fan of Super Mario, Grand Theft Auto, you shouldn't be worried. Honestly, you shouldn't be worried. They're still going to speak in their voiceover actors are in a different. They're not actual act. They are voiceover actors, sure, but they're not aligned with the Screen Actors Guild. Moving on, if anybody's noticed, in the last 3 years, dating back to the year 2020, we have had a rise in really great TV and film adaptations. What I mean by that is on video game franchises, and truly that started a few years back, but we'll get into that in a minute. I grew up I was born in 2002. So I grew up in an era that was bland to the video game industry when it came to film adaptations. There wasn't a lot of great ones. And there was Resident Evil, but honestly, in recent years, that series has tapered off. But I think starting in 2015, when we saw the release of the Angry Birds movie and how good that movie was, and then Angry Birds 2 came out, we started seeing a trend in the right direction, being related to the shows, or to the games. Then you had Sonic the Hedgehog in 2020 that got affected by a COVID-19 world, but still earned $345 million at the box office. That's what truly started the trend upwards for video game movies. Then you had Uncharted come out in 21. You had You had the announcement of Sonic Prime, which is a TV series. That TV series, you had Paramount announce Sonic the Hedgehog 2 coming out in 2022 and Sonic the Hedgehog 3 in 2024. Super Mario Brothers movie, a movie that got delayed because of the pandemic, came out this year, had $1 billion in the box office. You have Twisted Metal over on Peacock right now that is been doing really good over on Peacock. Then you have The Last of Us over HBO that is based on that franchise by PlayStation, and then Halo came out on Paramount Plus, and all of those series have been highly rated series. And then you got there's a potential. We have no idea when there's a Super Mario Brothers 2 coming out. Most people, I expect 2025, the earliest we'll see that. Next year, we'll see the release of Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Knuckles, the TV series Knuckles, is also supposed to come out sometime in the next couple weeks. But I grew up in an era when the TV video game adaptations were a lot better than the movie adaptations. And by what I mean by that is I grew up with shows like... Well, I didn't really watch Sonic X until I got older. I actually got to see some old episodes of the Super Mario Brothers TV show with my parents when I was younger. Those were really, in my opinion, those are some of the great series. And I've also looked into the older Deke series with Sonic the Hedgehog. And then I've also watched Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, which is based on the popular educational computer game. Which this was the animated series, not the actual game show, which aired on PBS. Honestly, TV adaptations have gotten better. They were really good in the 90s and 2000s. They got better in the 2010s, and they're extremely good now because there's so many of them. Whereas the movie industry was slow to actually get these movies right. Everybody knows how much of a bomb the 1990, I think it was 91 or 93 version, Super Mario Brothers movie was, and how it was nothing like the games. And then you go to the Illumination and animated version of the movies, and it was all so much better. I think the movie industry is going in the right direction. It's going in the right direction, and that's because, honestly, it's because of studios are actually taking the time to listen to fans. When Sonic the Hedgehog was supposed to come out in 2019, when they released the first trailer for it and showed a more humanized Sonic the Hedgehog, and they listened to the comments from fans, Paramount literally took a step back and redesigned Sonic to where he was almost as accurate as the games. And they took that to heart. The Super Mario Brothers movie made sure to include the original voiceover actor in a cameo role, of course, for Mario, for the Super Mario Brothers movie. Then you got all the references in Twisted Metal where they've referenced the old PlayStation games, the old PlayStation console. And honestly, that is the shock to me. The Last of Us, it follows the plots of the first game accurately. I hear Halo is really good. This is what Hollywood is finally listening to the fans. The fans are what made the movies great. And honestly, they're doing the right thing. I think, honestly, love the Super Mario Brothers movie. The only thing they could have done is made it a little bit longer and more of a it was a story. Don't get me wrong. It was a great movie. Don't get me wrong. Honestly, it doesn't sell me like Sonic the Hedgehog does, and maybe that's because Sonic the Hedgehog's more of an action adventure compared to the Super Mario Bros. Movie, which is supposed to be more about a family. And both are family movies. Don't get me wrong, but I'm still gonna want to watch Sonic the Hedgehog 3. I mean, come on, Shadow's gonna be in this one, so I'm excited. But honestly, I think with Hollywood listening to the fans finally is making it to where video game adaptations are great. And that's what I want to see more of, is Hollywood actually listen to the fans, and that's what they're doing. That's why shows like The Last of Us and Twisted Metal are popular, is because they're based on popular games. Uncharted did okay in the box office, but it still did good. Tomb Raider was another really great movie, an underlooked video game movie in my opinion, but it was a really good movie from what I've seen. And I may have fallen asleep during that one. But it isn't like the movies that came out in the 90s and 2000s where it was like terrible movies and so-so movies. And that's probably going to be the future of the movie side of it. The TV side of it, honestly, there's not much they need to do to actually fix that. They have been on the right track since the 90s, 2000s, 2010s. They were on the right track for a long time. And in this streaming age, having these exclusives on streaming is going to have fans flock to those streaming services. And honestly, them following the script of the actual games, or close to the script of the actual games, is kind of fun to watch as well. And finally, we end tonight with, and finally, at the course, I've actually seen this there. A couple months back, I heard Retro was coming to GameStop. And I was highly skeptical because when I have to buy games for the PlayStation, for the PS2, PS3, let me see if I can find one. Xbox 360. And the PlayStation console. I go to either a retro game store or I order them on Amazon. Because there's not really many places for a person who owns a 360, who owns a PS2, and a PS3 console to find games. So I usually go to a store, to a retro game store, or I'll order them on Amazon. The other day I went inside a GameStop where they're starting to roll out this retro gaming. They didn't have much. First off, they didn't have much. They had a few 360 games. They had a few 360 games. And of course, this was a town. I live in basically the middle of nowhere. So my nearest GameStop is in a town called Pleasanton. I'm from Texas, so Pleasanton, Texas. So I'm sure stores in town, which the closest town to me is San Antonio, will have more of a selection. But from what I saw, it's a good, and after what was 2020, 21, 22, when retro really came in style because it became hard to find Xbox Ones, Xbox or PS5s and PS5s and Xbox Series X's, retro made a huge comeback. And honestly, from what I saw, they had Wii games, Wii U games for the Nintendo DS or 3DS games. They had PS3 games. I didn't see any PS2 games, but they had PS2 cases where you would expect the PS2 to be, and they had 360 games. Honestly, it's going to be good for GameStop because they're trying to apply to every demographic. And while at the same time, it's probably going to be hard for people going into GameStop to get used to seeing games from the Wii and the Wii U, something they haven't sold in years. I think it's going to be interesting to see how well they do against their retro game store competitors and retailers like Amazon, Walmart, that still sell those games refurbished. Now, my biggest question is it just games, or are they also going to sell game consoles? Because right now, if they're just going to sell games, honestly, the retro game stores already have an edge on them because they have a selection of consoles ranging from the Atari 2600 from stores I've been to all the way to the Dreamcast, which is a discontinued console for SEGA, to the PS3, the PS2, PS1, PSP. I didn't see any PlayStation, PSP, or PS Vita games either, so that's something to keep an eye on too. Honestly, it's a great idea. You're trying to compete, having new and old, because there are still some, especially for the kids, because a lot of kids have the older consoles that are handed down from their parents or from their little brothers and sisters. I think it's a great idea, great move that GameStop is doing. Now, are they going to be Are they going to actually be earning a profit on it? Honestly, yes, because it's hard. Because there's a lot more GameStop stores than there are retro game stores, period. GameStop, I believe, has like 6,000 locations nationwide compared to video game stores, which are owned, which are there's a lot of them, but they're far and few in between. So they'll be making a profit off of that. Now, can they rely? Are they also going to do it online to try to keep up with Amazon and Walmart? Absolutely. But the problem is they're going to have I feel like the big problem is they're going to have a hard time getting games in. So it's going to be a slow rollout. But once they officially roll it out, in my opinion, it will be great. And I'm glad because now I have multiple places, not just a retro game store or Amazon, to actually look for a certain game for a PS2 or a PS3. Hopefully, we start seeing games from like the NES, SNES, Saturn, Sega Genesis in those stores, N64, GameCube, and I'm sure we'll also start seeing those pop up in there in Game Boy Advance, DS. So I feel like a slow rollout for Nintendo, not Nintendo, but for GameStop. It's gonna be a slow rollout to get games from Nintendo or Xbox, PlayStation, Sega. But in the end, it'll be worth it. Anyways, all. But that is my final take on, and that is my final topic for tonight. And and very sporadic selection in GameStop. But that, like I said, that is all for tonight's Video Games Live. We'll be back tomorrow at a different time, or we won't be back tomorrow, but we'll be back Friday night at 10:30 Central Time, which will be 11:30 on the East Coast for Video Games Live. So that is all for Video Games Live. We will see you Friday at 10:30 ish.